Sorry, what's up? Hey, what's going on, big guy? Have a seat. Hey, do you mind taking your hoodie off? This is a government facility. Oh, yeah, my bad. Thanks, appreciate that, motivator. So, what brings you in here today? I don't know. Okay, so what are you interested in? I don't know. No worries. I mean, is there anything specifically you want to know about the National Guard? I don't know. Just like, tell me about it. Do you care about anything at all? Not really. Would I have to go to like war and stuff? Okay. Hey, Sarin, thanks for meeting with me. I had a few questions. My first one was, if I join the Guard, what are some of the educational benefits that I can get? The second question I have is, aside from education, how does the medical and dental benefits work? And the last one I have is, kind of how hard is basic training? If you could answer all those questions for me, that'd be great. Yeah, no, for sure. I can definitely answer all those questions for you. I mean, it's a lot of information, so you sure you don't want to take it down with a pen and paper? No, I don't need a pen and paper. Okay, it's up to you. As far as educational benefits,
you have the Federal Tuition Assistance System, Montgomery Job Bill, Chapter 1606, and you have the Illinois Army National Guard plan. As far as medical and dental, you have Tricare Reserve Select, United Concordia Dental Plan. As far as basic training hard, it's as hard as you want to make out to be.
So, did you get all that, or did you have any further questions? You want me to go more details? Did I answer your questions? No, yeah, you answered them all, I'm pretty sure. I can remember that. Thanks, Sarin. Hey, Sarin, thanks for meeting with me today. I am ready to go. I've been dreaming about joining the National Guard my entire life. I am here to just sign up. What do I got to do? Hey, that's freaking outstanding. So did you bring your birth certificate? No. How about your social? No. High school diploma? No. Your ID? Did you bring anything? Not really. So can I come back? What up, YouTube? You're watching The Real Deal Leo. My name is Sergeant Leo, recruiter for the Illinois Army National Guard for specifically McHenry County, based out of the Woodstock Armory located on Route 14. First off, shout out to my wife and her BFF, Caitlin, for hooking it up with this awesome new space for me to shoot my videos. I love it. I hope you guys love it. Supposedly it's not done yet. They're gonna add more stuff to the wall, so I'm looking forward to it. Again, as you guys saw from the funny intro, this video is going to be about how to be prepared to sit down with an actual recruiter. That way you don't end up like applicant number one, where you just have nothing to talk about. You have nothing to say. You just don't have any questions. Or applicant number two, where you have an abundance of questions, but you didn't come prepared to be able to absorb all that information. You're gonna leave just like brain overloading, and by the time you get home, talk to your friends and family, you're not gonna know what the heck happened. And the last one, where you're ready to go, you're ready to sign up, but you brought no documentation, so you can't even get the ball rolling. All right, so let's get straight into it. First one, come with some well thought out questions, okay? It helps if you actually write them down. So the night prior, the day of, whatever, just go ahead and sit there and ask yourself, hey, what do I want to know? Specifically what I want to know. And just go ahead and just say, number one, jot it down, I want to know about education. Or number two, I want to know about this. Or number three, I want to know about that. That way you can literally just go ahead and just start checking them off the list. I mean, that helps us as recruiters out very well. It lets us know that you're taking it seriously, that you're trying to do your homework, and that you came prepared. So again, number one, come with some well thought out questions about whatever you think it might be. There's no such thing as a silly question. I get that all the time, like, hey, is this? No, you guys, for the most part, unless you grew up in a military family, you don't know anything about it. So there's no such thing as a silly question or dumb question. Anything's on the table. Any misconceptions, misunderstanding, there's a lot of them. For the most part, unless you know someone, the only thing you got to gauge off the military is movies, TV, media, and that stuff's not accurate at all, okay? So again, number one, when you come to the recruiter, if you can, jot down some notes on a piece of paper, notebook, Post-it note, whatever. That way, when you come in here, you have something to talk about. You know what you're looking for. You know what questions and answers you are trying to seek. Because the majority, some of this stuff you can find it online. Other stuff you can't. That's what we're here for. We can give you the actual stuff that you can't find on the websites. Okay. Number 2. So you actually are prepared. You come in with all these questions, and that's great. And you are going to be fed a lot of information. Okay. But the one thing that I always harp on is, obviously, me as a recruiter, I'm going to do my best to slow things down for you and make sure that you understand fully what is being told to you. I'll even hook you up with some brochures and some collateral material to be able to take home with you. That way, again, you can see it in black and white and you can kind of like remind yourself. But I find it is so much easier when the applicant themselves, in their own words, can write down how they understood their particular question and the answer. That way, when you go home and you talk to whoever it is, your mom, your dad, your grandma, uncles, your friends, and your influencers, your coaches, they're gonna ask you questions, you know? And sometimes when they ask you a question and you have no idea how to answer it, or you heard the answer, but because you just received so much information and data, like, you just kind of brain fart and you're like, we did talk about the schools and we did talk about the benefits, but I'm spacing it right now. And at that point, people think you're not taking it seriously, you're not doing your homework, or whatever the case might be. And maybe you might even doubt yourself, like, do I really care about this? Do I really want this? It's normal. When you come visit us on the recruiting office, there's a lot of information being thrown at you, sometimes too much. And it really helps if you can write it down in your own words. That way, when you go home, you can revisit that. When mom and dad ask you, you can go ahead and be like, yes, this is what the answer to your question is. All right, so that's number 2. Number 3, let's say you're already 90% of the way there. You just need to fill the gaps with a couple little questions here and there, but you have full intention of, when you show up to the office, to actually not just get information, but to enlist. As you saw in the video, there's certain documentations that we as recruiters need to have. The first one is basically we got to prove who you are and that you're a U.S. citizen. That's kind of what it boils down to. So I got to know what your actual legal name is, that you have a social security number, that you were born a U.S. citizen, or you have permanent residency, whatever the case might be. So some basic stuff is you need to have a birth certificate, and these all have to be original copies. When you come to the office, the recruiter is not going to take the original copies from you. We will just make a copy for our own records, and we'll give you the originals back. As a heads up, when you actually go to qualify, taking the entrance exam called the ASVAB, we can have another video about that later, and MEPS as a whole. When you take the medical exam, you need to bring the original documents. The copies will not do. But birth certificate, social security card, signed. If you are already a high school graduate, your high school diploma. If you have a driver's license, bring your driver's license. If you don't, a state ID or some kind of ID. Sometimes high school IDs are okay. Those are the bare minimums. Obviously, not every applicant is the same. Some applicants might be married. They might have kids. So in that case, we need to be able to prove the same thing. Their birth certificates, their socials, their IDs. If you were married, your marriage certificate, stuff like that. But again, for your typical applicant, they usually come in single, no dependents, so they just need the bare minimum requirements. So again, if you're interested and you already know, like, hey, when I go in there, I want to sign some paperwork, I want to get this process going, I want to get out of here and start my journey, then go ahead and bring those minimum documents and you'll be all set, okay? The last question that I normally get is, all right, I'm prepared. Should I bring my parents to the meeting or should I not? Now, this is completely personal preference. Okay, so you can bring mom and dad. I think it's a great idea. On the other hand, it kind of, I guess, depends on how your relationship and your dynamic with your parents works. If you're the type of child where when your mom and dad are in the room, you're not entirely truthful, you're not being completely honest and you hold back, then maybe you might want to have that first meeting alone. That way, when you and the recruiter, when we sit down, we're actually having an honest exchange of information. You know, you're not holding anything back. You're telling me in reality what your goals are, what your dreams are. You know, I've seen every situation where some parents are 100% supportive and encouraging of that dream, and other parents where, you know, it's not so much there. And when you bring your parents and you have that dynamic, and I ask you, what do you want to do? You might not tell me because you're just you don't want to say it in front of your parents, stuff like that. So, but if you and your parents have an outstanding relationship and you hold nothing back and you have a complete, honest, open exchange in front of your parents, then that's great too. That way, again, everybody's getting that information, everybody's getting their questions and concerns answered all at the same time. That would be the ideal situation. But like I said, at the end of the day, you want to make sure you're doing this for the right reasons. And if you feel more comfortable having the first initial meeting without your parents, that'd be great. Me personally as a recruiter, I don't care if you're 17 or if you're 30. At the end of the day, I want to make sure you have your parents' support. So I always open it up. Just because your parents weren't there at the initial meeting, that they cannot come in at another date, another time, before you enlist, before you start the qualification process and get their questions and answers answered, because the last thing you want is to start this already hard transition to trying to become a U.S. soldier and you don't have your family support. So us as recruiters, if we can help in any way to make sure that you get their support, we want to go ahead and do that for you. Okay, so again, just to wrap it up, come with some well thought out questions. Number two, make sure you have something to write down all the answers, aside from the information the recruiter is going to give you to take home. But it's always better if it's in your own words. Number three, if you are ready to roll, bring those documents. That way you're not just sitting there like, all right, I guess I'll come back another day to go ahead and get the ball rolling right then and there. And the last one, parents, completely up to you. It's your preference. I think it's a great idea, but at the end of the day, if you're not honest, that's kind of the very key factor when it comes to this enlistment process, okay? So, next video is going to be, speaking of parents, what if they're not supportive? How do you have that conversation? How do you go ahead and get rid of that fear of, my parents do not like this idea, I know they're not for it, I'm just going to have to wait till I'm 18, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to go ahead and talk how you guys can handle that the best way possible. All right, stay motivated, everyone.